I don't even know when it goes live. There it is. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sylvia Worsham. Welcome to the Let's Get Raw and Real show. And boy, do we have a show prepared for you tonight. This show was created during the time of coronavirus, and it was created to bring applicable tips and solutions to problems that was plaguing humanity on the 7 pillars of life. And this month, I decided to do the segment on energy because I don't know about y'all, but I think we've gotten so hit on the energy front that we could all use an energy reset. And tonight we've got the beautiful, the talented, the courageous and resilient Meredith Kolaski. And Meredith and I go way back a good 2 years, but it feels like forever. We're like soul sisters. And so I'm really excited to have you here tonight, Meredith. And your story is so powerful. I mean, I shared it on all my social media sites, and I had a lot of people say, "Oh my gosh, she really is aware of meditation. She does this for a living." But they kind of wanted to know how you got into meditation in the first place, because you do have your degree in dance and choreography, and it seems like you have a lot of energy for sure. So could you share with us briefly your story on how you became the meditation and yoga teacher you are today?
Sure. I laugh because I used to say, I chose dance and making dance and creating because that was my way of expressing without having to use words. And now I'm guiding people with words for so much of what I do. So through dance, yoga came into my life. And so I've been teaching yoga for over 25 years, where there's, always a component of breath work, of a mini meditation, or at the end of class, you have what's called shavasana. But I think meditation really came into my life when I started struggling with my health. And so thyroid, Hashimoto's, autoimmune disease, and endometriosis. And so life became a bit about managing these symptoms, the pain, the inflammation, the discomfort, definitely due to trauma that I had experienced in my life. And then 3 years ago, I almost lost my life. And so in the place in recovery, I was in bed for, collectively about 8 months. And all of a sudden became very afraid of the body that I had used as my tool, as my career, as my way of expression, as my way of keeping my mental health thriving. And all of a sudden I couldn't move my body. And so much of the health struggle, what I came to really start to shift my focus on was about energy. Because if you don't have energy, then you don't have anything to work with. And as I lied in bed, I realized, okay, so if I can't move my body the way that I need to keep my mind sane, I know that I can move my energy. We are energy. We can make more energy. We can raise the vibration and frequency of energy. And I can start shifting and moving that energy around. And that took me into the deep dive of all kinds of different meditation practices, which really brought me to the passion of learning, and now really wanting to share with people that it is about a journey of self-empowerment and a journey of getting to know your thoughts. It's a practice of awareness and acceptance of where you are, and then using that to your advantage. The more we get to know ourselves, the more we can discern between how we're feeling, what these thoughts are, which ones are going to bring me into ease, which ones are going to bring me into dis-ease, and how can I manage that? And so I'm very, my work has become a deep passion in teaching people that meditation is very accessible, and it's life changing in how it empowers your life, it empowers your health, it empowers your mindset. And it's crucial to adding it into your life and your routine for your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, your energetic health. Yeah, all of it.
I think that passes it. And you did touch on the health. And, you know, I, for a long time, did not do meditation, even though there were, my parents even told me, you need to do meditation. You've got this anger inside of you. And I'm like, really? Well, you know, I didn't even know where to start because meditation can be a little bit daunting for the beginner. So what do you, what tips can you give to like people that are starting their journey? Like where do they start?
Yeah.
And
I get this question a lot, or, you know, I can't just sit, my mind won't stop. Those are a lot of things that I hear. When, you know,
for
when
us ADHDers, tell us.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you there, 1,000%. You know, there's a few things. I think knowing that, you know, and the science is so supportive now, which can help kind of bridge the gap between, you know, people who aren't sure where they are in making that spiritual connection, or aren't sure, you know, most of us are afraid to sit with our own thoughts. We're afraid to feel a feeling, we're afraid that if the feeling might be too big and we won't be able to handle it. And so I think it's the first step of knowing that this is a tool that can ease anxiety. It can help depression. It can help decrease blood pressure. It can help pain management. It can help memory loss. It can help glandular and hormonal issues. And so, you know, knowing that it's about deciding to add a new tool to your toolbox that's overall going to make life good. And I think for the beginner, you know, it's about, there's not one way to meditate. The misconception is that you're going to have to build a shrine and you're going to have to get a special pillow. You know, you're going to have, you know, certain crystals and statues. And yes, you know, I am about energy because it's what has helped heal me. So I like to have crystals around and things like that, but it is not a requirement for meditation. And so there's many types of meditation. There is the seated meditation. And yes, I think eventually getting to a place where you can be in a pause and create space, you know, within your thoughts is a beautiful thing. But there's prayer, there's active meditation, which could be walking, it could be painting. You know, meditation is the practice of bringing your mind to a single focus. So our thoughts are not going to stop. It's just that we start to be able to observe them instead of react to them. We have 10,000 thoughts in the blink of an eye, and unfortunately, the statistics are 80 to 90% of them are negative thoughts. And so when we start to train, our meditation is like building the muscle. Like you work your bicep. Meditation is the same thing with training your brain to learn to choose, that you have that power to choose what you're going to focus on. And so I find there's Kundalini Yoga is a huge part of what I share, because it's really what changed my life. And it's a combination of breath work, of chanting, of mudra, which is hand gestures, kind of hand locks that send signals to your brain. And so I find that that's a very accessible one, because you're starting with a task. And I can give you, so an example would be, and this is one I give so many beginners and children also. When my son was about 5-ish, when the video games started coming in, the rule was if he wanted to play the video game, then he had to meditate first. And so there's a meditation where
I love that.
trying to get balance in the system. The meditation is called the Kirtan Kriya, and it's very simple. You move your forefinger to each finger. So thumb to first finger, thumb to middle, thumb to ring, thumb to pinky. And the words are sa, ta, na, ma. Sa, ta, na, ma.
Okay.
Yep. And so there's a song, there's a beautiful song. You can hit Spotify, put it on.
Okay, so Spotify. Okay.
Yeah, I can share any of that. But most of the time he was not wanting to do it. He would be lying on the floor, just getting it done in order to do his video game. However, fast forward a few years, and I was getting remarried, and we were moving into a new home, and he was getting 3 new siblings. And the first night we were in the new house, he said, "Mommy, can you put on Satanama?" And I was like, that is my proof that the meditation works, because he knew that he had a tool to regulate the anxiety that he was feeling. And it's not just, and so I wasn't even calling it meditation. I was saying you have to do Satanama before your video game for your brain. But it gives you a place to focus. You have words to focus on. You have the hand gestures to focus on. And so people find it much easier to connect and feel your system relax. And then the science is, your fingers and your hands are connected to the hemispheres of your brain. So you're balancing the hemispheres of your brain. When you chant, we have 84 meridians on the roof of our mouth. Your tongue hits the roof of your mouth. It stimulates your hypothalamus gland. That stimulates that stimulates your pituitary gland, which regulates your hormones, your stress hormones. It produces oxytocin and serotonin, which gives you that feel-good chemical. There's all this chemistry in your body going on with the meditation. And so, it's not, nobody is going to just be like, tomorrow I'm going to start meditation, and then be expected to sit and all of a sudden just feel relaxed. Often, it's a journey like anything else, and you have to go through the growing pains, because part of the practice is, again, really getting to know yourself, getting to know the thoughts that are leading. And sometimes that's uncomfortable. But most of the time, as soon as our awareness clicks in to, okay, I'm feeling this feeling, I'm going to allow myself feel it. I know I can breathe and allow the feeling to move. And most of the time, with commitment and consistency and sticking to it, even when it doesn't feel comfortable or easy, people start to just feel the benefits. You feel better. Your energy starts to feel better. You start to make more mindful choices. You start to feel less reactive and more responsive. So that's so much of, really back to that beginner question. It's like, there's not just one way to do it. Sometimes it's trial and error, like everything else. It's just deciding to start, and inch by inch. I tell everybody, waking up, sitting up, and taking 5 conscious breaths, you just meditated. It's that simple. You've taken the time to connect to yourself, to find some relaxation, and to start the day. So doing a gratitude journal is a way to meditate. Start coming into appreciation is a way to meditate. Prayer is a way to meditate.
I know that for me, I didn't even know where to begin, but I had heard a lot of people say, well, go to Insight Timer, if you don't, and then you had the Deepak Chopra and the Oprah Winfrey that had their own meditation series. And that's how I started mine 2 years ago. But then I kind of let it slide, and then COVID hit, and I suffer from anxiety and OCD. So, and I think ADHD, I think that's also sprinkled in there. Um, and so I just started really slow, like even just 5 minutes and then just increase slowly. Would you say that a minute a day even is enough? Like you said, just breathing, that's a form of meditation, and a minute and then just build up every week as your body sees fit and your
Mhm.
thoughts.
So,
Okay.
yep. Yes. I mean, something is always enough, right?
Uh-huh.
So again, there's no ultimate. Of course, there's science to particular practices, what's happening to the systems of your body after 3 minutes, after 7
Mhm.
minutes, after 11 minutes. And um, I think, I say the journey of meditation is, I call it BYOB,
Uh-huh.
being your own bestie, right? Not bringing your own booze, but being your own bestie.
It feels like you're on a high, but
Yeah,
what's a different
exactly.
high?
It's a natural high. That's the point. And,
Uh-huh.
it's taking that time to connect, because when we can root down into the connection, then again, it's teaching ourselves that we have that signal, when our mind kind of starts to get into the freak out
Uh-huh.
um, state of being, that we can move out of that and remember that we can trust the inner wisdom that we have
Mhm.
and move through things. And the breath is huge, right? If we can control the rhythm of our breath, we can control the rhythm of our thoughts. And think about, anxiety.
Uh-huh.
It starts
The
to
deep breath.
activate the breath. And so,
Yeah.
and this has been a conversation that's come up a lot lately, which is interesting, but often we wait until we're in pain or we wait until we're in the full-blown anxiety attack and then
Uh-huh.
try to find the solution. I was speaking with a woman who was having panic attacks in her sleep and saying, I'm waking up with panic attacks. And I said, well, what do you do on the daily? And what's your
Mhm.
nighttime routine? What are you doing before bed every day? Because
Mhm.
if you took 3 minutes to do this particular breath or this particular meditation, and you were regulating your nervous system every single day, then you were getting yourself prepared. So it doesn't mean
Mhm.
that those things might not come up, but when you start training your system a different way, it will be more mild, or we'll know how to get ourselves out of it better.
We have one question that came up from, I don't know if you can read Dina's question. Does it show up for you? But if not, it's any recommendations for how you sit? Sitting crossing legs is challenging for my hips. So
Mm,
when you do meditation, how can one sit?
that's a beautiful question. Thank you, Dina. There is no right or wrong way to sit. You get into a comfortable seat. So I find it funny because the pose in yoga is called Sukhasana, which translates to easy seat. But for so many people, there's nothing easy about sitting on the floor and crossing your legs.
Yeah.
So some people, it's as simple as sitting on a pillow and lifting your hips up.
Mhm.
So when your hips are higher than your knees, it helps your pelvis tilt and your hips can soften. You can lie down. You can
Mhm.
sit in a chair. I recommend if you're sitting in a chair, just have your feet touching something so you're grounded.
Okay.
There really is it's a comfortable seat. So,
See, I go upstairs, like I wake up every morning at 5, uh, without an alarm clock, which is amazing. That would be
circadian rhythm.
I've got my rhythm down, and
Yeah.
I walk upstairs, and well, I do get a cup of coffee. I will say this. So I know that's not necessarily the healthiest for you, but that I do just one cup of coffee, and I do start my meditation, and that's the very first thing I do to get in state to create. And I do sit inside because it's freezing in that guest bedroom, in the bed, and I lay, and I just sit there, and it's like a ritual I've done since March of 2020 of like 15 minutes at least. Right now, I'm taking part in the Insight Timer Challenge for the next 30 days or something, and it's a 15-minute meditation from various people. So, um,
a lot
But
of
yeah,
people.
I sit down like normal, you know?
There's no wrong way. And again, and every day we're different. Our bodies are different. We feel different. So every day the seat might be different, and it's showing up. It's the act of showing up for yourself in the time, not so much about what posture your body's in. You know, I mean, there are particular meditations or breathing where you'll be cued to be in a certain way for the flow of the breath or the way things are connecting with. That's a particular practice, you know. And Insight Timer is a beautiful thing. A lot of people, when they're beginning, find that guided meditation is a really helpful tool, and some find that that's the way that works for them forever. And
Yeah, because you
again,
can
there's
actually pick like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, certain subjects. And I found that that was easier for someone like me who didn't even know where to start. And I just thought, well, just start where I'm at. Just start exactly where I'm at. I had taken a couple courses from you. I love that. But the timing wasn't working out for me because I'm writing my book at the same time you're doing your classes. But now I do know, and this is something that you revealed to me prior to the show, that if you participate, and I don't know if it's too late, I guess it's too late to participate. Are you going to be doing another monthly membership or another 20-day challenge soon? Or?
I am. The membership is always there. And so, but then within that, I'll do different challenges. So we're doing a 21-day one right now. Sometimes I'll do a 40-day one. So the challenges are really there to help people decide to start and give the tools and the guidance along the way. And, you know, of course, community is our best accountability partner, because like anything else, you know, you don't always want to do it, but the practice is about showing up every day. I always say, I call it, you know, tune in, tap in, and turn on. And the practice is, once you choose to commit to tune in to yourself, then it doesn't really matter what happens within that next 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, because sometimes I'll have a meditation and it feels very connected and I am able to really focus. And other times, you know, the timer goes off and I was like, you know, just baked a cake in my head and took the kids to school and got math homework done and, you know, choreographed a dance. And, you know, that's just the way that it is. However, my day is different when I continue to do it and I stay in that routine, regardless of what happens when I'm there, right? Because our minds can either elevate us or they can pull us down. And choosing to tune in and then tap in, and so we can live our day turned on, gives us that anchor to when we get out of it or get, you know, have a bad moment or a reaction, we can pivot that much faster back to the anchor that we started with, you know. And for some people, it's the nighttime.
I used to use it as a pattern interrupt, the meditation. Like if I was getting emotionally triggered, it was a pattern interrupt I incorporated. I'd go into a room and I just would start meditating, and it just kind of cleared the air for me. I also found that when I stacked my habits, the meditation became easier, and that's why I stacked it with the habit I had created of drinking my coffee, and I just stacked it right there, and the habit of writing in my book for at least an hour in the mornings, and those two things are stacked. But meditation comes first, the very first thing I do, and then I start creating after that. And I found that worked for me. But once again, everybody's a little different. Their rhythms. Some people do it at night. Some people do it as pattern interrupts. Some do it 3 times a day. You probably do it like sometimes 3 times a day. Right? And I do force my kid to do meditation too. So you're not the only one. I do it because he suffers from anxiety. And my deal is, you know, incorporating the positive. Like I asked him the other day, do you want to live with your anxiety forever, or do you want to do something about it? And he said, well, I want to do something about it. And I said, well, meditation is something that's helped mommy, and mommy, like you, suffers from anxiety and OCD. So, you know, I'm I'm sharing something that might help you. And then he just does it every morning. It's just his habit. He wakes up and first thing to go off is insight timer, and whatever works for him, like 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, as long as it's 3 minutes a day. And
Well,
his anxiety is decreased significantly, which leads me to my other question, which is how since COVID began, we started to see a rise in anxiety in kiddos. So tell us how we can guide parents. I mean, I'm a parent, you're a parent. How do we guide our kids' meditation practice? I mean, you did it with one trick with we're gonna, for, every time you play video games, you gotta do this.
Yeah,
And my
it's a
kid's like,
barter system.
it's like, you want this anxiety to control you or not?
I think that it's such a powerful tool to know that you have the ability to self-regulate. And I think that's, when I see, a lot of, all of the kids in our house experienced, trauma of divorce, their own traumas in their life. And, people that I work with that struggle with addiction, and that can be food, that can be substance, that struggle with all those things. A huge thing that's lacking is the ability to self-regulate and the trust within themselves. And so it's like anything else, it's a beautiful opportunity to teach kids the power that they hold within themselves, that they can figure out a way to ground themselves in any situation. So first, what I'd say to all parents, because I'm so passionate about everybody having it in their life, is that leading by example is the best way.
You gotta do it first. No.
Yes, they model more of what they see than do what they hear.
Sure.
And so, I think that's a good place to start. But again, I will say it's a life-changing thing when you see your child all of a sudden pause and take a breath and know that they can regroup themselves. My son, we're 7 years later from learning this, and he got braces on, and I look down and he's in his chair and he's doing this. It's a tool to regulate. So, like any kind of parenting, of course, they don't want to take our suggestions either, but it does need to be a habit. It needs to be in the routine on his board, and this is my value system and priorities, but on his whiteboard in his room is wake up, make your bed, take 5 breaths, tell yourself how amazing you are, then you brush your teeth and get dressed. And and so it is as easy as teaching them just how to breathe. When I started doing a lot of in-home yoga, personal yoga trainings, I would come in, and the biggest thing I realized is, oh my gosh, almost every single one of these people it's like they haven't taken a deep breath in 50 years, 60 years, 40 years, and teaching our children just that, 5 deep breaths. It is an essential thing. You're going to wake up, you're going to inhale for 5, exhale for 5, especially now, there's tools like the tapping, and even just tapping here. And, we talked about that, when you're in your classroom and you feel your mask on, when, they're
right
so
here in
smart.
the,
Yeah.
like
I
the
mean,
chest.
so really,
Okay.
for then, when you tap here, it's going to send a signal to your brain to calm down. And so if you feel that feeling in your stomach, if you feel the sweaty feeling, if you feel those things, then you can, it's self-soothing, and that's what meditation is too. And
And I
so,
think it works for those kids that have textural issues, even for the OCDers,
oh,
because they got to have something near them constantly. So the tapping could be even an interruption of the thought that's like bothering them. I would think that that's something that would be something they can do that takes that thought away, and they have a more of a control over it. Because OCD is a little different than ADHD in that OCD, you can't really control the thought. It's going to come no matter what you do. But I think the tapping is probably going to alleviate some of that. Because I've noticed my son, and I'll do it too, where I'll need to do something to interrupt it physically. And that's a physical pattern, interrupt, if you will.
1,000%. But, and the practice of meditation is designed to help break those loops of thoughts in what it's doing. There are studies that show people meditating and their amygdala, the fight or flight part of their brain, actually shrinking after 8 weeks of doing meditation. And the more it shrinks, the lower our stress gets. And so again, there's, I find that it's easy for most humans, most of us to think, if we don't feel good and the doctor says, here's the medicine, take this and you'll feel better. And we're like, okay. And in my journey of wanting to heal myself holistically, which these practices, I can't make a medical claim, but my thyroid antibodies are completely in balance. My Hashimoto's is in remission. So,
I know that's so painful for you.
My body, fell apart literally and came back together, and I'm dancing again and exercise. So there's so much power that we hold in our own abilities to heal ourselves. And that's not just physical, but, the mental and emotional piece is so huge, especially what we're all navigating right now.
Oh, yes.
So it's like, to me, okay, if I can sit up in my bed and chant instead of take a medication that's going to give me like 800 other side effects, then I'm going to chant. If I can teach my kids, to take breaths, even if I have to, barter with something, I see the effects of it working. I see my son get in a moment where his anxiety raises, and I see him use the tools. My stepson will come and say, can you show me this thing again? And so
I've seen the tapping here. This is different up here in the head, right? Because I've seen the tapping in the head and the tapping in the forehead.
So
the difference between
there's a particular pattern, of points that are all over, and they're all related. They're like, it's like acupressure or acupuncture. We have all the meridians in our body. And so the tapping points are tapping into different meridians that tap into different organs. For instance, like our kidneys is where we store fear. And so that's where the different points kind of get into a more scientific explanation. But I find, like, with a sensory kid, all they need to know is the messaging that I have the power to make myself feel better. So in this moment, I'm gonna pull out my tool and I'm gonna use it. And usually just the simple awareness that something's not right, and I'm gonna grab my tool, already starts to shift, pivot the problem, and so.
Because I used to do the tapping on my head because my acupuncturist had taught me, since I have anything hormonal is contraindicated in me because of my pulmonary embolism history. So I guess when hot flashes come, I'll just have to bear and grin and do a lot of meditation to make sure that, gets regulated. But she used to tell me, just tap up here, to kind of get your, because I'd get afraid and I'd get worried in the middle of the night. It was like to get me back to sleep. It was a certain point back here that she taught me. And, but yes, because acupuncture, all of it has to do with energy. All of it is the flow of energy, how it's moving through your body. And I love what you've been talking about of it being a place where you come as you, like you're accepting of you, you are loving on you, and there's different expression of that. And I remember when I started in really heavily in doing meditation during COVID, because of my anxiety, because of everything that was happening in my life, I actually was calmer than most people thought I was going to be during COVID, because I had always shared this, energy that was a little bit more hyped up, but meditation has helped like calm that and alleviate that so significantly. And I found that I love myself more. It was a practice that really increased self-love and awareness. And it's something that my kids do. My daughter does it at night though with her dad. She does it at night because that's what she prefers. So she does it at night. We do affirmations in the morning when she wakes up.
There's no wrong way. And I mean, I believe the self-love piece is such a huge part of it. Being someone who has to navigate chronic pain for a long time, I was not nice to myself. And the messaging was, I hate you. Like, why are you so fat today? Now I can't do this thing. I'm so tired. I hate you. And when I almost lost my life, you definitely get a new sense of appreciation for just being alive. And that really shifted my perspective when I dove into this practice of, if that's where the BYOB kind of was inspired from, because I was like, if my best friend was in pain in any way, mental or physical or emotional, I would put my arms around them and I would say, it's okay. And like, take a breath, let's ease. And I was like, why don't we do that for ourselves? And that's what, it really is that the practice that gives you a greater sense of awareness of where you are and how much better it feels to be in the present moment. And that's a practice. We're always going to be pulled out of it, but the more we practice, taking a minute to be in our breath and connect with our breath, we are connecting in to the present moment. And then we can appreciate what we have in that moment. And like Abraham Hicks speaks of, when you start to appreciate where you are and what you have, then you start to raise that energetic vibration. And when you start to raise the vibration, then you start to attract in more of the things that you're casting out into your vision, right? Then you start to become more of that higher frequency. And so,
or the expression, what we call the expression of love, to elevate. It elevates that expression of love, and from that place, really anything's possible. Anything, because fear is gonna come in and just like, no,
right,
and that's you're not worth it. You're not enough. I need control. I need security. I'm comfortable here, and a lot of people live there for many years. I mean, you and I met like in a different space in our lives, and then it seems like we've always known each other. We talked that one time and it was like hours and hours and hours, and then again during COVID, and it's just been an amazing journey. And I've been so grateful for you in my life, as I know a lot of people that are watching tonight have as well, because you're such a joy to be around, and your passion for what you do transcends and to the rest of us, which is how you're impacting lives one by one. I do have a question from Dina. Have you experienced tingling in your left side of brain after meditation?
I'm sorry, have you experienced tingling
in your left side
of the brain
after meditation?
I have definitely experienced tingling all over, all over the place at different times. And I can't speak to specifically your individual brain and what may be happening there. Now, I know you, Dina, and so she's so open
Well, she's an
to
artist,
receive.
and she
Right.
loves
And
it.
she's spitting out the most incredible art right now. And, you know, part of the practice is allowing yourself to be open to receive, which is trusting trusting your guides, trusting the universe, trusting your higher power, that you can give over what you don't need. You can plant seeds of intention of what you're asking for, and then you can open yourself up to receive. And with meditation, and certainly particular kinds, there are energetic shifts happening, and those vibrations are a sign of things happening. It's like sometimes if you lie on your back and you put your legs up in the air in a yoga class, people, like, your legs will start to shake. That's not just muscular, that's your nervous system working itself out to kind of to rewire and move out of a sympathetic and into a parasympathetic nervous system state. And so, you know, there's so many things that are going on biochemically in your brain, which is the beauty of what meditation can do, and how powerful it is to tap into your different brain centers and your different glandular centers. And so I tell a story often. I was getting acupuncture when I was navigating like deep pain, and she decided to kind of amp up the treatment. And I think she used a bigger needle, and because it never hurt before, and she put it in a place that it's gone before. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, why does that hurt so bad? And she said, well, what does it feel like? And I said, it's like an electrical shock going up my body. And she said, well, why do you think it's pain? Like, take a minute. Is it pain, or is it just a new sensation? Like, often we associate something new as automatically being pain, but it wasn't. It was just my body responding in a new way, an electrical current happening. And those things happen a lot in meditation. You know, sometimes people will feel maybe dizzy or lightheaded, and there's lots of new blood flow happening.
I've seen colors, like really bright colors, rainbow. Like, I'll be in total meditative state and I'll open my eyes and I see rainbow everywhere. And it's like a deep, but I'll see it in my head as I'm closing my eyes or however I'm doing it. I think it shows up so differently for people, but I have felt the tingling from head to toe.
It definitely
and that's
does.
the way I'm connecting to the mind of God. I'm using meditation as my form of prayer now, because since I'm writing in the book, that's technically my journaling, because I'm getting a lot of stuff out, which I know journaling is another form of meditation.
100%.
Like Nina does it through her art, like you mentioned earlier. I do it through my writing. You do it through meditation and yoga and dance. I know you do all three. So that's like an amazing thing. And I know that, I mean, like I said at the beginning of the show, today was such an important day in our country, but even coming to this point in our lives, our energy has taken an enormous hit, like enormous hit. In what ways does meditation reset the energy? You've talked about the sympathetic and parasympathetic. Can you, for the audience purposes, because not everybody's as educated as you, can you explain those two so people understand what you're talking about?
Yeah, so our nervous system has three parts to it: the sympathetic, parasympathetic, which is the central nervous system. And so when we're in the sympathetic state, that's like the fight or flight state. When we're in trauma, when we're having anxiety, when things are getting stoked, that's the sympathetic. Our parasympathetic system is when we can come back more into ease, when we want our brain to be producing that serotonin, that oxytocin. And so meditation is designed, and there's specific types of breath work, meditation, chanting designed to come back into your parasympathetic nervous system state. I am a firm believer from my own experience that dis-ease is a result of trauma of your nervous system getting burnt out. I had adrenal fatigue. I think for so many years, we a lot of us on the daily live in fight or flight. We're in fight or flight, and our jobs and our systems can only handle so much. And so if we're not doing anything to offset it, and then B, to potentially regulate it. So instead of going to the job every single day like this, meditation is a way to provide those tools so you can still step into that same environment, but you can be aware of where you're at, where you need to be, and how you need to regulate yourself. And so, when we're in that fight or flight too long, it burns our system out, which steals our energy. And, I think really when you're focusing on any health and well-being, it's about, where is my energy? The food we eat, is this giving me energy or is it stealing my energy? Am I drinking enough water? Am I getting energy? Is something stealing my energy? The people I'm surrounding myself with, is it elevating my energy? Is it taking too much of my energy? Everything is, we are energy. Now we have machines that can measure the electromagnetic field of energy around us, and they measure people meditating, and the shifts that start to happen in our brain also start to expand that magnetic field of energy. Our bodies are made up of so much water, and so we can crystallize that water. We can keep the water flowing. So we want to continue to expand that field of energy around us. You can call it aura. And the more we expand it, again, the more it's vitality. Meditation helps your body to restore itself, to come into more vitality, more radiance, expand that magnetic field of energy, raise the vibration. Can you tell I love it? Just sit and breathe. All these things are happening. You don't even need to worry about it. 5 breaths for 3 minutes in the morning. Actually, 5 breaths.
Now, is it like super deep breaths? I mean, is it super, super deep breaths?
So there is a huge array of different ways to breathe. So usually what I will, especially for someone that's new, the 5 breath is an easy thing. You in for 5, out for 5, 5 to 10 breaths. There's the prolonged exhale. So making your exhale a little bit longer helps to come into that parasympathetic nervous system state. So there's breath patterns where you can inhale for 4, pause for 7, exhale for 8. Inhale for 4, and I'll say, okay, just put a timer on for 1 minute. If you're doing nothing, 1 minute is amazing. And then, there's breath work like breath of fire, which is more like a.
Oh, I remember this one.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I need water after this.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that takes a little bit of getting used to, but a couple things, the longer I did it, what I started realizing, I experienced a pretty heavy trauma when my son was young. And after that trauma, I experienced panic attacks for the first time in my life. And they would come out of nowhere. I could be in the most, grocery shopping or just doing something, not thinking about anything. And it would take over my whole body. And I could logically think to myself, like, this is not real. I'm not in a dangerous instance. But I was so disconnected from my body feeling that panic. And what I learned with the breath of fire, I mean, it has so many benefits. It stokes your metabolism. It's something that helps to expand that magnetic field of energy, that auric field. It regulates so many things in your body. But what I also realized was that it almost mimics. You're
like
not doing
dog, like you're panting.
It is, yeah. I say you learn it like a panting puppy. And anxiety can be more up here, and the breath of fire is more pumping the belly. But when you're doing it for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, you know, it almost mimics that same like feeling.
Yeah.
Yes. And so then you're teaching your system to associate a breath pattern with something empowering instead of something fearful. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
and
you're providing a contrast. Absolutely.
Yes. And so like that's where I feel like with certain breath works, there is power in that. And so, you know, ideally you setting ourselves up for conscious breathing is a really good way to kind of get to that tune in place. And so I would say take the 5 breaths and then just let yourself pause for a moment or two, regular breathing, and, you know, thank you for this life or whatever you want to say, and move on with the day. You know,
it kind of reminds me of a psychology technique I was taught early on by my therapist. And Dina will appreciate this because she's an artist. But he had me think of my past self as representing something from art. And I remember thinking, well, mine's going to be like a Picasso painting because I never understood one. To pull up all these like very red and orange colors because I was an angry and identity. And then he said, well, and your present self, I want you to pick something beautiful in nature. And the first thing that popped into my awareness was the sun, because I love the sun. Every time I look at the sun, I just feel alive and joyful and, you know, just bright. And there were times that I'd get triggered emotionally, and I would take the image of the Picasso painting and push it away because it was so on the forefront of my mind, and push it away in my mind till it becomes like a blurb. And then I would see the sun, and immediately it taught my mind that's not who you are anymore. Who you are today is the sunshine and your joy, and that fearful person's not there anymore. So there's no reason for you to be triggered. And I was having this really like heavy conversation with my sister, and she always had a way of triggering me. And then I snapped out of it. But this technique you're talking about with the breathing kind of reminded me of that, because you're giving it that contrast and associating it with something that helps you as opposed to something that freaks you out, like makes you anxious.
I love what you just said. I want to do that exercise. I'm sure Dina's like,
yes,
her whole light bulb just went off of inspiration of a whole new course. That's amazing. And yeah, I mean, colors, you know, this could be a whole nother conversation, but we also have the chakras in our body. And so a lot of people that see colors, or if some kind of color comes up, then that's another way to discuss, you know, red is our root chakra. That's our security and our ability to feel safe.
That one was me for sure.
Right? You know, yellow and orange. Orange is our creativity, where our emotions are, our sacral chakra. And yellow is our third chakra, our manipura, the seat of our personal power. So I love that.
Oh my gosh.
Chose the yellow sun, like I'm going to step into my personal power, right? So nice. Green is the heart. Blue is the throat. I express. Indigo is the third chakra. I see, and purple is the crown, which is our connection to our highest being, our higher power,
our soul, God. You know, whatever you want to. For me, it's always gonna be God, because
out of your understanding.
Powerful moment.
Yeah.
And I remember your story at the end, when you talked about how your mom, like as you're sitting there waiting to go into the OR, I think, and your mom is there, and you're doing the meditation to stay conscious, and your mother is like, what is happening here? Like, because she's very Catholic, right?
Yes, very Catholic. And there, you know, that was another thing that I do speak to, is that I had been putting these tools, you know, incorporating them into my daily life, And so when my accident happened and I was, getting put in the ambulance and rushed to 2 different hospitals and going through, these tools are the things that popped up in my head. There was a moment where my skin felt like it was going to burn off my bones, and I was getting panicky. And I also was, I was getting carried down the stairs in a sheet, and our boys were watching. And so, the mom brain was like, the boys are watching. I want them to see you, in pain. And all I could think was, it's called taco breath or Satali breathing. And I was like, taco breath, and it cools. It's a cooling breath for your system. So you stick your tongue out like a taco, and you inhale in through your tongue.
Okay, that's gonna be interesting.
And then you close your mouth and you exhale out your nose. And if you can't, not everybody can curl their tongues. You can just stick your tongue out. Not everybody can make the taco. It's okay if it's more like a flat tortilla.
It almost sounds like do the cherry stem, like turn it on. I can't do that.
I can't do that. I can do the curl for the breath, but and I felt like that was, instead of focusing on the overwhelm and the pain and the fear, I could focus on my breath. And then there's a protective chant in Kundalini Yoga, and it's fast, and so when I was in the hospital and all these things were happening, again, all I could think to do it. And for someone who's never heard it, the chant is Atgurevname, Jagakgurevname, Satgurevname, Sri Gurudev Name, Atgurevname, Jagak. And my mom was like, what is he doing? He's speaking in tongues. She was like, and I said, it's like my version of praying. It's not, she was like, how much morphine are you giving her? It was, I speak to these tools and practices of meditation and mindfulness to saving my life. And that's a bigger conversation, but on the daily, the bottom line is that it will improve your sense of well-being every day. And, none of us are going, we're not going to go to I would love to go to an ashram for years and plug in. But we're not there. We're here in life. And it is a beautiful thing to know that we can shift ourselves back towards the love without, looking to another person to do it for us, looking to a glass of wine to do it for us, or food to do it for us, or buying something to do it for us. All we need is within.
I tell you, I think you're going to have to come back to the show. I'm sorry. You're going to have to come back.
Anytime I get to sit with you.
Roundabout. We'll do the chakras next because I'm very interested in that, because it does pertain to energy, and energy is going to be a subject of mine I coach on energy quite a bit, and something I talk a lot about in my first book. So for sure, you're going to be coming back. I do have a comment here from Keith Wilhelm. Your stories and tips are amazing, especially love how you teach your kiddos to meditate before playing. So thank you, Keith, for your kind comment. I know that Meredith appreciates it. Are there any questions before we sign out? Because we are both mommies and we've got kiddos in the house and we've got homework and all sorts of things going on. So we have 2 more minutes left on our show. And if there is no question, I'm going to allow the 2 minutes. Any concluding things you want to say, Meredith?
I just want to say how grateful I am for you. The same sentiment that I am so grateful that God brought you into my life, and having a soul sister like you to learn so much from and heal together. It does take a village.
It does.
To do it together, to check in, am I crazy? Maybe, but we're crazy together.
That's okay. There's no hands in this.
Exactly. But you're such a gift to this earth and this world time, and people need the work that you do so bad. So thank you so much for what you do and how you've supported and inspired my life.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for your time tonight. We this has been absolutely amazing and very, very informative. I know I learned a lot. It reminded me a lot of stuff I had already learned, but many, many years ago when I was in pharmaceuticals. So that's why I had you go over the nervous system again. Um, when does my book come out? Well, let me put it to you this way, Keith. I'm revising chapter 7 and I'm starting chapter 12, and it's a 15 chapter book. So I'm almost done with it and I'm moving pretty fast. And my writing coach, Joyce Glass, who's on the line, is helping me out. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
They've got me on a really hardcore schedule, and I write 2 hours every morning. So hopefully soon. But I am putting everybody on an email list now for when it gets released so that you guys are able to get a hold of the book. But thank you so much for your time tonight, Meredith. I have absolutely loved this time. It has energized me, and I'll be looking at your webpage. Do you want to post in the comments your information as to how people can reach you in case they do want to participate in any meditation challenges you have going on? Because, guys, she's the best. I mean, I've taken the meditation from her, and next one I'll definitely be joining. I'll probably, have Joyce Glass and a bunch of people join with me.
I'll post. Sure, I would love to. I'm always open for any kinds of questions, and people will come with particular things that they're navigating, and so there are so many different types of meditations that can address that particular place and help support the growth through it. So I will chat. I would love to do it in the comments, but I don't see where I can actually type.
Okay.
So I could
so
do it. I'll do it when you post the recording. I can throw it in there.
Yes. So look out for that, guys, because she's someone that you definitely want to take courses from. I've done it, and I can certifiably say, yes, this is awesome, and you will learn a lot, and you will feel so much better for having done it. Thank you so much for your time tonight. Meredith, I love you. Love you guys. Stay safe. Bye now.